Wait, there's no way. It's playing my freaking openings. Oh my god. Okay, wait. Let's rewind. So I'm not that good at chess, but I have been on chess.com for quite some time, long enough to have played the infamous personality bots. Now, I was looking for a new AI project around the same time, and suddenly it hit me. What if I could create my own chess personality bot that played like me? It would be like an AI twin. I mean, all the famous people and personalities got one. Why don't I have one? It would be pretty simple. I had been learning about ML and AI in general, so I could just train a neural network on all of my 4,500 games or so, and it should just end up playing like me. So I did the only sensible and logical thing anybody would do in my position, which was to build this entire thing from scratch. So first I created a fetchgames.py file that would download all my Lichess and chess.com games. Later we dealt with only the chess.com games since it was easier that way. Then we threw all of that into dataset.py, where all of my games would be converted to tuples, where there's the fence string and then the UCI move that I played after it. Next, I built encoding.py, which is the translator that turns chess positions and moves into numbers a neural network can learn from. Given a position, which would be a fence string, it builds a 17 by 8 by 8 tensor, which is just a stack of 17 transparent 8 by 8 boards, where each board is a plane. Now, there are 12 planes for the different piece types, 1 for the side to move, and 4 castling rights. Now, using the one-hot encoding style, we can say that each square in a plane is just 0 or 1, depending on whether that feature is present on that square. It also converts a move into a single class label from 0 to 20,479 by mapping the from square to square and promotion tuple into one unique index. Together, this lets the model treat chess like an image input in a classification problem, where it has to answer, given the 17-layer board representation, predict which move index I played. Now, my model was quite simple. It was just a chess policy network. All it really did was recognize patterns. So its goal was to predict the possibility for every possible move, not just the legal moves. So at inference time, we would have to mask to only the legal moves. Now, I was really excited after I got this thing trained. I was really excited to try it out, and I will tell you, it was the most deceiving thing I have ever seen. So let's go ahead and look at one of the games we played. So I play the white pieces, and my twin should be playing the black pieces. So I start off with my normal e4, e5 opening, and we're gonna do this weird thing. So I usually never bring the queen out, but I wanted to test its capability. And okay, it blocks pretty well, and I'm like, hey, this is like playing my openings. And it moves the knight in. That's good. That's something I would definitely do, and I have to move my queen back. But then it plays the bishop to b4. Now this is a bad move because, and I would have definitely seen it because here you have a fork, and you would definitely not want that. So this was my first red flag. So I played that. It had nothing to do, so I took the knight. It took back. And now I've set up this huge battery over here. So it's got a castle, and it castles. Amazing. So now I wanna trade off the bishop, and I like to trade it off because after it takes and I take, I put my knight up here and I castle, I get a open rook file. So it doesn't do that, which is something I would have always done. It always moves the bishop back here. So it's okay, it's not too bad. So I have some hope here, but okay, it's not the best. I'm setting up some normal things, and this is another red flag. Here we have 3 attackers, we've got 2 defenders. Not only that, but this sets up a fork on the knight, on the rook and the queen. So we do that, and that's another red flag. The queen moves out of the way, I take, and it takes with the king, which is interesting. It should have taken with the rook. So I'm continuing development, and now we want to trade off more pieces, and I'm just trying to put pressure in there, and then it does this. And this is where I lost all the way. So this is just one of the games where it has done a queen sacrifice like this, but I played a couple of games. It was really painful because I played in the CLI and then I converted it over here to Lichess so you could all see. But this was a huge red flag and I was breaking down because it was almost there, almost. But just for the sake of finishing the game, I finished the game up, and you could see now it's just blundering. It didn't even, I mean, it didn't even take the knight. Now we're taking the rook. So we're taking that, and then, well, that's mate. So overall, deceiving, but it wasn't a horribly bad start. And the issue here was that it can't actually tell the difference between a good move and a blunder. And most importantly, it can't tell you why it made that move. This was just a probability tree. It was guessing what move I would play based off of the statistics and based off of what I had played historically. So it really had no sense of chess, and it really didn't know exactly how to play chess. The only reason it looks like it knows how to play chess is because we were masking all of the positions it was outputting to only the legal moves. So it played legal moves, but it really didn't know exactly what was going on. The only reason the opening looked so solid was because my openings are very consistent. And then this was something I rarely play, so that's where it fumbled. But my openings are fairly consistent, which is why you see the knight developing, the pawn here, and the knight over here after developing. So overall, that's what we had, and it was time to figure something else out because this was just not going to cut it. So while exploring, I found this thing called Maya, and it was a chess AI that was trained on human games across various different rating levels in increments of 100. So the idea here was that it knew how to play chess with all the blunders, mistakes, and best moves that that rating player would make. So we could use this to give our model the knowledge of chess and then make Maya choose my moves over its moves at certain times versus others. That was the rough idea, and here's what I got. So to fit Maya into what I already had, I created an analyze training data file. And here we basically compared my moves to Maya's top moves and tried to figure out the difference and train a model on that. The key idea here was that Maya will tell the model what moves it would pick, which equals to the general human, and what I did instead. This should have trained the model on my preferences, which would layer on top of what Maya already knew. But it made weird mistakes. Let's take a look at the game I had. And the general consensus was that I had to figure out how to get a model to think like me, not just play a probability distribution game. So I started off with my general e4, e5 opening, and it was playing pretty much exactly how I would play it. And I did my signature attack moves with the bishop attacking over here, and it defended. Interesting, it didn't go here because I usually like to castle kingside. So we just kept playing like this, and then it did attack me. Now I would never castle. I would ideally not castle kingside, and usually my opponent would try to break open the queen side so the king gets stuck. But we kept going. It played some interesting moves. I kicked the bishop back, and it was overall a pretty general normal game. But then it castled kingside, which was a little skeptical, but I'm like, okay, well it's got some defense here, even though I could really break open. So that was the first minor red flag, but I kept playing, breaking open, and this that pawn was not a concern at the moment. But it moved its king up, I castled queenside, and then okay, we want to get the pieces off, and I'm just playing a little bit of general. This is pretty much like me. The bot is not very much playing like me, and then it plays this. And I'm like, okay, this method won't work either because, well, there's something going on. There's some noise with my data which is making it play something like this. So, well, I take the queen. It doesn't even take back. It sacrifices the knight for no reason. So I take the knight, then it takes back, and I keep taking. And now we're going full on aggressive. We're trading off pieces soon. Trading that off, and then it falls for a triple fork, which is interesting. I keep the pressure on. This is not important since there are two rooks. He's going to have to move both. Now we take, and then it really doesn't have a lot of moves. I was trying to go for a tactic here. I later realized there was not much of a tactic because the pawn can defend. But it didn't even take it. This was just bad. Now it was just getting worse and worse. This was horrible. And very soon we're landing into checkmate territory. So overall, it still did not work, and my guess was that it was because it's playing a probability distribution game, and that is not going to work for a model that's supposed to play like me. It's going to have to think like me, and it's going to have to understand the board like me. And so that's where I had to transition next. Now this transition was rather tragic, because I had to ditch my entire neural network idea. So we started generating a synthetic dataset instead, based on my last 200 games, to generate something that would hopefully represent more of me. Now, first I generated an opening book. This was so that the bot would represent my openings rather than something completely random. Next, we introduce Stockfish. Stockfish would be used for three main things. First, evaluate the things I played versus what I could have, and how good that move was. Two, we use it to evaluate and understand basic features, such as king safety, pawn structure, and game state, and what moves I did and how they affected these certain features. And three, understanding forcing versus quiet and central versus flank, how my moves affected the entire overall game position. Now at runtime, we actually had two different layers. Previously, we had Maya baked into my own neural network to produce a mixture. But now, we have Maya, which generates the best moves it thinks exist, and then a reweighter on top of that, or a type of filter, you could call it, that basically took Maya's moves and reweighted them according to my style and my move preferences. So now let's look at a game that I played with it, with me having the white pieces, and see how it actually performed at runtime. So I played my normal opening like I always do, and it immediately played something that I would never play. I don't know what game it picked up on or what it saw whenever it recognized my openings, but this is not a move I ever play. Regardless, I played what I would play assuming this was just a normal opponent. And I took control of the center, played my normal knights over here, and then I pushed. This is something I typically do. And nothing special really happened here. It, I mean, this, I could call this something I play. I probably wouldn't have done that. I would have gone backwards, but I guess I would have pushed my pawn and I would have been stuck. So maybe that was reasonable. This take actually lets, say I was black. This take would actually give my, remove the double pawns, and once I push, it's a pretty strong pawn structure against this bishop, which we will actually see in action later in the game. So that's something I wouldn't have done. This is interesting because this is like weak. This is rather weak now, this pawn, which we will also see getting taken advantage of by me. Well, after castles, we have some pretty normal gameplay. The knight on the edge is very interesting. It's something I do only if there's a move after it, something like this. And this, I don't know, this wouldn't be the strongest move is my guess, but because it lets this pawn come up forward. I believe it does play. Yeah, it plays it here. And I do take. Okay. Again, now I have the center kind of once these guys let go of pressure. Mostly just the queen. But yes, opening up the rook file, this is something I would not want my opponent to do, especially knowing that this could happen. And now you can kind of see what's going on over here. This rook is going to be trapped for a long time. And again, we keep playing. I played a strange move here. There's a lot of weird stuff going on because I didn't want to come here, which would allow this to happen. And when I come like here or here, this thing can come out here. So I was thinking quite a bit while playing this. This trying to be aggressive, which is interesting, but because it's not very effective. And once the king is out trying to trade over here, I end up trading in the future. So the idea here, I want to bring my queen out at some point. After the trade, he loses a pawn, or it loses a pawn, and now I'm going to advance my pawn, and it's just going to dance around not knowing what to do. Now this is out because I wanted to come here to protect the future pawn up square and move my rook, and that's when this happens. Here, since it moved the rook, this is really bad. It can't move this back, so now I'm like winning totally, and it doesn't have a lot of moves, and it plays this, completely forgetful about en passant. And I do take the en passant, but if you look at it the other way, even if I didn't take the en passant, coming here would be just as disastrous. So this is a completely lost game. So I take the en passant, completely unexpected, really had no option here. And then it was a lost game from there. So overall, it kind of played like me, it kind of didn't, but I wasn't yet convinced. It was just not strong enough, and the fact that it was constantly losing was also a little bit strange. It just wasn't analyzing enough data. So this was an attempt that was pretty well grounded, and I actually wanted to continue on this attempt and make it much better. So let's take a look at what I did after. In this new version, we had a key conceptual shift, which was replacing the handwritten probability reweighter with the learned choice model. We still used Maya, but learned the reweighting function from data to answer the question, given Maya's top n plausible moves, which one should I choose? To make this possible, we introduced a few new things. First, candidate-based supervision. It's just a fancy way of saying we have to match my move, historically, against Maya's top 20. And we only do this for the moves that match in the top 20. Otherwise, we ignore the move that I played. Second, a set of feature vectors per candidate, not just tags. Each move is represented by a description of what the move does and how it affected the position, plus Maya's own probability as a feature. Third, context conditioning. The model gets a context vector which contains game phase, material situation, and intensity or outcome buckets, to learn that my priorities shift depending on the situation. This is important because humans don't keep the same priorities all the time throughout the game. We change, and so the model must also show that. Finally, instead of hardcore rules, we introduced a neural network scorer that learns how to combine these signals into a single score that ranks candidates in the way that I would historically choose them. So, after burning my CPU for hours, I finally got a model that I could somewhat say played like me. More than all the others, at least. I had ChatGPT build this UI for me painstakingly because I got tired of playing in the CLI. So, well, I guess you get to see me play against it live. So, let's see how it does. Well, there you have it. That's the chessbot that I've trained to play like me. It can be a lot better. I can also be a lot better at chess. But there's so many things that I can actually improve in this thing, like such as adding more features or increasing the data set size. And who knows what else I could do to maybe bring this over the top. And who knows, maybe this will actually at some point become a real representation of me as a chess player. Well, that's all I have for you. And go ahead, drop anything you want to see next, and maybe some suggestions on what I can improve in the comments below. And I'll see you guys next time.